What is up, Hockey Town? It's Matt and Forrest with another episode of Hockey Town Hangout. The Red Wings are picking a fantastic time to be playing some brutal hockey. The trade deadline is tomorrow afternoon. We're going to talk about it all right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Hockey Town Hangout.
Brings it in, scores! Oh, his first NHL goal is a beauty!
The sickest Detroit Red Wings podcast. It's gonna be sick.
So, game against Utah just concludes a 4-2 loss, the Red Wings' fourth consecutive loss. All of them in regulation. Forrest, the game tonight. Red Wings looked like they had some jump and some fight early, but ultimately just looked kind of lost, and some key mistakes and key times in the game cost them tonight. What are your thoughts?
Tonight was really interesting to me. I mean, just come out of the gate dominating, being up 2-1 could have been more. Honestly, probably should have had at least 4 or 5 goals tonight. Only end up with 2. 16 shots, jumped all over them. Really walked away like, okay, this team is here to play tonight. And then in the second and third, it just looked like they weren't able to get anything going outside. I mean, the power play looks good, but the power play isn't going to carry them to a playoff spot. They have to be good 5-on-5. And as the game progressed, I felt like Utah just put the clamps down. And, I would say Utah's very like similar talent level to us, but they really shut us down in the second and third period. And we weren't able to make any adjustments. And that's ultimately why we didn't score any goals after the first period. Definitely disappointed about Mazur tonight. Like that was something I was super excited to see, but we're witnessing the wheels falling off. And, it's interesting because the Derek Lalonde part of this season, we knew the Wings weren't that bad, but in the, I think it's like the last 25, 30 games, they also weren't as good as they were at the beginning of Todd McClellan's time. So just disappointing where we're at.
Yeah, I think you're getting a bit of a new coach bump for sure with how everything shook out. Obviously playing at kind of like a clip that's a bit unsustainable, right? Like 2 7-game win streaks. But hockey is such a peculiar game because like sometimes it can't be about the result. Sometimes it's got to be about the habits and how it looks. But I think they did a really good job after the coaching change, really buying into the new identity that Todd McClellan's trying to play with. And I think, we talked about it before, like the Four Nations break kind of came at a bad time. Like I think the Red Wings group would have preferred to keep playing, because they were playing so well. And then the break happened and we come back from break and haven't been playing super, super great like we were before. I think just lately during these last 4 games and in particular tonight, like the holes that are on the roster are like super, super glaring right now. You could make the argument that half of their defensive core right now is kind of unplayable. The forward depth's been kind of a question mark all year, especially, when you look at the inability to score 5-on-5. Special teams, is kind of a wash because the power play has been really good all year and the penalty kill has been really bad. So it kind of cancels itself out there. What meaningful difference can it make? And then you couple that with the fact that you can't score 5-on-5. And to top it all off, like the goaltending earlier in the year was playing pretty above average, and kind of lately I feel like the goaltending has kind of come crashing back down to earth. Like that's not a knock on Talbot or Lyon necessarily, but they've let in some soft goals. I think they'd be the first to admit that, some goals they'd wish they had back, but you're seeing a lot of holes right now. And when that happened to Carter Mazur tonight, that's obviously just so like one of those moments where hockey's just like, are you actually kidding me? Like so frustrating and annoying, but I'm hoping that he uses it for, fire for his passion for the game, come back stronger. But yeah, I just, the game tonight, doing some decent job with shot volume lately, I suppose, but like goaltending's like they're not doing a great job getting tons of traffic. Those dirty areas where tons of goals in the National Hockey League are scored. So I don't know. A lot of shots, sure, but like how many grade A scoring chances, I'm not entirely sure. And then like when the goaltending at the other end, you're letting in 4 on 18 or whatever it was, like like you said, we're watching kind of the wheels fall off, and it's not fun to watch. It's coming at a pretty brutal time. Trade deadline's tomorrow, and I don't know. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I don't think anyone's coming to save anybody in the locker room.
Agree with basically all of what you said. There is no knight in shining armor here that's going to save this team. Unfortunately, not one single player is going to be able to turn it around. It's ultimately a talent issue, unfortunately. So until they are able to get the high end players on their team, we're going to be playing at a disadvantage.
And so you got about 20 games left. You have to play the Capitals tomorrow, who are just on an insane run this year. Schedule doesn't get any easier. I think, I really wouldn't want Steve Yzerman's job right now, like, because you have a lot of important decisions that you should probably have, like, if you don't have them figured out already, in the next, like, 8 to 12 hours, you need to have them figured out. So, I think you and I are kind of aligned where it's like, you'd like to make like a big splash trade and go get a big name, like a Rantanen or someone young like a Dylan Cousins, or like if you wanted an upgrade net like a Jordan Binnington. But like, what is the, like, does it really make that big of a difference? Because if we're talking about this push for the playoffs here, but you also have to keep in mind, what is the roster? What do you want the roster to look like next year? Because like, I'm pretty sure we're aligned on this too, but like I would like a couple more young guys on the team next year. Like I think Axel Sandy and Pelika should be giving a real look in training camp. I would love it if Dmitry Buchelnikov came over to North America and was, in a training camp and, could be given a look. I would, we'd love to see, is Sebastian Cossa going to be on the NHL roster next year in a backup 1B kind of role? Like we want these guys on the team sooner rather than later. Especially in the case of ASP and Buchelnikov, like I think they're kind of hitting their peak in their respective leagues. Like what more can they prove where they're at? So it's just something like I try and keep in mind, like you'd love to, I'm so tired of not playing playoff hockey and like meaningful games into April and May. But like, I'm not sure if it's a wise thing to do, because like you said, like even you can get Rantanen, but what does it cost you? Like what all do you have to give up? And and for what? Because like even if you did do that, like you still have Eric Gustafsson and Justin Hall on your third D pair. Like Mikko Rantanen doesn't help with that problem. Mikko Rantanen's not throwing the pillows on in the crease and helping Alex Lyon and Cam Talbot stop letting in the squeaky ones. So like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure Steve Yzerman's going to do much tomorrow. Maybe another like retain cap move and get another middle round pick or something. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I just the closer we get to it and the way they've been playing, it's kind of giving me the heebie-jeebies from like 2 years ago, where like maybe even we sell somebody if the price is right, if someone's willing to overpay.
Well, obviously, we have the one trade that's been broken where we're getting a fourth rounder for retaining 50% of Yanni Gord in the trade with Seattle and Tampa Bay. So I think that's really a sneak peek into what's to come. Like, they're not going to be making any big deals. They are just working around on the edges. So I hope that there's not more to come, because I mean, you mentioned it. There's guys that are coming up through the system that are playing really good hockey elsewhere in the world. I don't know that they're ready for the big club, but like Grand Rapids, bringing them over on the smaller ice, especially for ASP and Buchelnikov, and getting them, used to the different amount of space and less time and just processing faster. I think they need to come over and start that process. Kosa absolutely should be on the roster next year. Lyon is not his contract ends at the season. It should be Talbot and Kosa, and they should be at about a 40-40 split, in my opinion. Danielson, Mazer, like I think you just bring up all the young guys. Maybe you make one signing, like if Rantanen goes to free agency. I think that's where you try and get him. I don't see any reason, like he's not going to stay in Carolina. I don't think it's worth ponying up anything for him anyways. Not that he's not a needle mover, but like Carolina, I don't know why they even traded for him, in my opinion, because you knew that he wasn't going to sign there. Like, what free agent wants to sign in Carolina anyways? Let's be real here. Like, so, they're fooling themselves if they really think he's going to stay. But this team is high end talent. We have a couple of good high end, like top talented players, but we just don't have enough. And especially on defense, we're paper thin. And it's just one of those things. The only thing we can do is wait around and see with time. And to be honest, that's why I'm encouraged that we went out and got a 4th rounder. Like, keep getting those picks, keep restocking the cupboard, because at some point, hopefully in the next, we'll say 2 to 3 years, they're in a position of strength. They're in a top 3 spot in the Atlantic, and we have enough prospects to replenish the pipeline and deal out future first rounders at that point. But man, just really from the highest of highs, being number 1 in the NHL in like the January, February timeframe, to just the lowest of lows and just not looking like a cohesive unit at all. And ultimately just getting absolutely caved in 5-on-5. They spend so much time in their own end breaking out. It's sad.
And like with the defense and everything, like I almost think like that needs the most attention. And like, what kind of meaningful, like on the fly reconstruction of a defensive core can you do at a trade deadline? Like, I just don't think there's enough time to fix the amount of things that they need to fix. Like you said, Talbot and Kosa next year, 40-40 split. That would be awesome. I don't know if it will be like that. I'm assuming, they're trying to slow walk Kosa and everything. And I'm pretty sure Trey Augustine, he did 2 years now, NCAA. Maybe he'll be in Grand Rapids next year. So it's like
we got to stop slow playing these guys.
Yeah.
Like Kosa is 23, almost 24. Why is he not going to play 40 games at the NHL level next year? There's absolutely no reason that he shouldn't.
No, I hear you loud and clear, but just based on previous slow walking of people, I'm assuming, but like if you're not going to do 40, like can Cam Talbot handle 50, 55 starts? Like, I don't even know if that's possible either, or if that's even a good idea to have going into next season. But like, there's so much that still needs to be done. And like last year's run, like to the end, like felt so magical and like crazy and like unreal while it was going on. I don't know if this particular group has that in them. Like, you make the coaching change, like everyone's got kind of a fire lit under their ass. They have 2 7-game win streaks. And then, we take the break for 4 Nations. We come back, and then we come back into like a 22-game sprint where like you have an insane amount of games against teams in playoff positions. I'm not sure they're going to be able to stack the regulation wins needed. Like, even if they do hang around close, like the regulation wins are hard to come by for this group, especially with the problems that they have breaking the puck out of their own zone and scoring 5-on-5. To me, I have the heebie-jeebies. I don't see this turning around. I hope I'm wrong, but like, even still, like, can you imagine this team in a best of 7 with like a Washington or a Florida? Like, oh man, I don't know if I'd even want to watch that, to be honest with you. Like, Eric Gustafsson would be put in a blender like every other time he was on the ice. And like, that's the thing too. Like, teams that like go far in the playoffs, like their third D pairs are pretty solid. And like, if your third pair is Eric Gustafsson and Justin Hall, like, I'm sorry. Like, it's not happening. Like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And I wish I was wrong. And it's been almost 10 years. The Pistons are about to have a playoff series in the LCA, barring an epic collapse. And the Red Wings just can't figure it out. They can't figure it out. And, maybe this was the plan the whole time. maybe when Steve Eiserman got hired, he had 10 years in his mind and just wouldn't tell us because he knew it would bother us so much. And now we're just living through it. But nonetheless, tomorrow's going to be interesting. I have a feeling clubs are going to be active. I don't know how active Detroit's going to be. Unfortunately, the schedule's tough. There's too many holes in the roster. The underlying numbers 5-on-5 scare the crap out of me. And the power play and the penalty kill cancel each other out in my mind, like I said earlier. So,
What did you say? You were talking about like the Wings in a 7-game series. I don't think anybody can really picture that, like how terrible that would look against a Washington, or I mean, I think we could play all right against Toronto. We have the familiarity, but like a Washington specifically, yeah, our third pairing would be in big trouble, and that's why I don't think making any kind of a move for anybody to try and be a 7th or an 8th seed is just worth it, because the top 3 spots are pretty much locked up at this point, and Tampa Bay's loaded up at this point. So I don't see a path forward for this season. And at the end of the day, you and I both had them missing the playoffs. I think like mid 80s points. And we roll with the highest highs recently, the lowest lows, the Lavon part of this season. And ultimately they are who we thought they were. About an 85 to 87 point team, not really terrible, but not good either. And I thought that was funny. I was looking back at the beginning of the season.
and then you kind of are in this point now where it's like, okay, so we're in the basement and we exerted all this energy and emotion getting ourselves out of the basement back into the playoff push. And now we're just going to slowly pull the rug out from under this as we go through another brutal March, and then we're going to draft 14th overall. Oh, boy.
What you going to do? I mean, that they really are caught in the mushy middle here, and that's why I just don't think making any kind of a move is worth it at all.
Like, it'd
Like,
be
go out
one
and
thing if they were – sorry to cut you off. It'd be one thing if they were, like, in that wild card 1 spot still going into tomorrow, or even in like the Atlantic 3, like, okay, yeah, let's go out and let's try and maybe add a piece and try and see if, maybe we can get in the Atlantic 2 and get home ice in the first round. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me when like they're like in the wild card standings, they're like 3rd or 4th now. They have like the fewest or tied for the fewest regulation wins of the group. Like it's hard that's a hard one to dig yourself out of. And like, obviously if it came down to like them and the Rangers would dust us on that tiebreaker because they have like almost 30. But I just, it's so funny because it's like such a roller coaster. Like the year sucks at the beginning and Milan's awful and they gas him and McClellan comes in, the play fucking hockey and the winning streak. It's crazy how up and down it can go. And it's only been 5.5 months.
Yeah. It's been a wild ride, but that's also what we love about it. And say, for example, this Wings team was to sell, hypothetically, what pieces, if any, would you get rid of that might have some value? So no Gustafson, no Hall.
I would love to get rid of Tarasenko, but I don't know. I mean, you said of value. I don't know what value he has right now. But
if Florida comes knocking with a 7th rounder, you parting ways with Vlad?
Oh yeah, I mean, no, like yeah, that's a future considerations trade for me. Did you see Wallman's going to the Oilers?
I did see that. I think that's a sneaky good move.
I think
for
that's
them.
a good fit for him too. But
he's a good bottom 4 defenseman. Like, that's exactly what they need.
I don't think they dropped it officially yet, but like someone tweeted that like rumored to be a return of a 1st rounder. So we offloaded a 2nd rounder to have San Jose take him, and then San Jose holds him for 50 games and flips him for a 1st. So they got 2 top 60 picks pretty much for holding on to him for 50 games. That's like that upsets me if that's true. Maybe it's not true, but if they did get a 1st rounder for him, what a piece of work by Mike Greer out there fleecing Steve Eiserman and then to get him 1st round for him. That's crazy.
There's been a lot of questionable moves in hindsight. Unfortunately, a list too long for us to go through, but yeah, just the latest of the debacles. It's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, and Christian Fisher getting picked up off waivers too. Not that I think he was a needle mover in any way, shape, or form. I didn't think he was playing good hockey, but um, yeah, just interesting that like they prioritized someone like him over, someone that was a known commodity, had been in the room for the previous season. You knew what he was all about. To bring him back and then just cut him loose midseason. Man, I don't know what's going on with these veterans anymore. That's why I just think you bring up as many young kids as possible, see who can play, and go from there.
And like that's a good point too, because like obviously that's been like kind of a criticism of the organization, is just like kind of tipping the cap to the veterans and like having the young kids earn everything, and like to the success and their detriment, and like taking things away too. But like Eiserman's not afraid to waive a veteran. Like did it with Abdelkader, did it with DeKaiser. He did it with Fisher, obviously, just now. He did it with Husso earlier in the year. He's done it with Hall. Like, I do appreciate that he's not afraid to like waive a guy and make room for a younger guy. Obviously, probably kind of regretting it now with how everything shut down tonight with Mazur's debut, because he kind of lost Fisher for nothing. But he probably would have been called up tomorrow, to be honest with you, if he cleared. But that's hockey. Unfortunately, injuries and bad bounces are part of it, and I'm just really interested to see what happens tomorrow, because I think everything is so tight in the East. Like, I think people might have the tendency to maybe overspend a little bit, maybe overreact a little bit. So I think you could see, and we've had, a number of key injuries. Like obviously Jack Hughes just went down. Like Florida just traded for Seth Jones. Like, are they done? Looks like they're gearing up. Like Florida and Tampa are like having an arms race, it seems like. But I always love the trade deadline. It's one of my favorite days of the year. I always try to make sure I don't have any like work commitments going on that day, so I can just binge watch Trade Center or whatever. But yeah, I'm excited. Maybe the Wings will do something cool, but I'm not really holding my breath, and I don't think you are either.
Definitely not. I know you mentioned like the Rangers have so many regulation and overtime wins compared to everybody else. Just goes to show how much the loser points propping up all these teams that really shouldn't be in it at this point. Want to call it a little bit of attention to that, because it, instead of 6 teams for 2 spots, it'd be 5 teams for 1 spot. So just an interesting perspective, and the way the loser point props up teams that really aren't much better. Like I was looking at the standings, Flyers have like 3 less wins than the Sabres, but they have so many overtime losses that they're ahead of them in the standings. I think they got to change the system. I don't know. I haven't been a fan for a while. I'm also not a fan of like the 2 and the 3 in each division playing each other. Like it should just be seeded 1 through 8 and everybody play from that point on. Screw the travel schedules, all that other stuff.
If there's one thing we know about the National Hockey League, it's that the National Hockey League's biggest enemy is the National Hockey League. Like they cannot get out of their own way, it seems like. But we will have fun watching it from afar and laughing at their decision making. So we play Washington tomorrow, and then only a few weeks left in the season. I don't really know if the Red Wings have enough runway left to get back into this thing. Maybe they pull another 7-game heater out of completely nowhere. Who knows? But one bad week can break everything, as we're going through right now. One good week could maybe fix everything, but obviously a lot of moving parts with the close playoff race. Forrest, any closing remarks on the current state of affairs with the Red Wings Hockey Club?
Back to the first point I made, the wheels have fallen off. Let's see what we can do tomorrow. Offloading, if anything, we're standing pat, and yeah, maybe we get lucky and go on another late, but I won't hold my breath if we don't. So excited to tune in either way, and see how we set things up for next season. What about you? Anything final?
I just really look forward to the day where we can clinch a playoff spot and text each other and buy tickets to a game and go, because I have such massive rebuild fatigue, and I get that, it's all part of it and we're drafting and developing guys, but holy cow, it doesn't make it any less annoying when we're going through it. But nonetheless, we press on. It's a good day tomorrow, trade deadline day. Hopefully you're not too busy at work, or you can have your AirPods in, listen to some content. So we'll be with you along the way. Maybe the Red Wings will pull it out. Maybe the status quo will continue. Hockey's weird. Bounces are funny. We'll see what happens. So thanks for joining us, gang. We'll see you next time.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Hockey Town Hangout on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.